The whole world loves pho bo. Apart from the bones you're using, the ingredients we need are onion, cinnamon bark, garlic cloves, ginger, and star anise. All these need to be roasted and preferably on an open flame. This is how we were taught in a cooking class in Hoi An. Simply do the same with the remaining aromatics. Put your bones in a pan and cover them with water. Bring it up to a boil and boil for about 5 minutes. Then drain and wash the bones. I also rinse the pot. This step is to get rid of the scum from the bones. These bones were fairly clean, but they can be very, very scummy. Refill your pot with the washed bones and cover with fresh water. Add 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of sugar. I throw in some vegetables for extra flavor. When your pot comes up to a simmer, put your aromatics in for about 5 to 15 minutes and then take them out. They'll overpower your broth if you leave them in. About 2 to 3 hours before taking off your broth, add a big chunk of beef. 2 or 3 hours will ensure your beef joint is tender. When done simmering, remove the meat joint and set aside. Remove the bones and strain your liquid. Also, if there is any meat on your bones, I pick this off for later use.
There's nothing hard about making the beef broth. It just takes a long time. Now, it's supposed to be clear, as I mentioned before. I kind of stuffed up. It got to a rapid boil for about an hour. I missed it, so it's going to be cloudy, still going to taste the same, just not going to look quite right. Now, I can probably fix that to some degree by letting that sit in the fridge for overnight and let the sediment sit to the bottom, and it will clear up a bit. To make a clear broth, you can't have it boiling. It has to be a very slow simmer. Irrespective, the show must go on. So the next thing we have to do really is talk about the noodles, and most of the times it's just used rice stick. And this is the one we're using today. And using the rice stick is probably more authentic. Now, I use all kinds of noodles, and I also use the wheat noodles from all different shapes and sizes. I like that. To me, it's a little bit, I don't know, more substance. But if you're gluten intolerant, then by any means, you can't be using these sorts of things. And simply to make this, I just pour boiling water in a bowl, let it sit for about 10 minutes. They're ready to go. The only thing left is to put it together. Let me just kind of clean up, get ready, and I'll be right back. I'm just waiting for the broth to heat up. We're going to serve this up, but I want to talk about the greens that the Vietnamese use. They use a ton of greens. My favorite would be the Thai basil, bit of a licoricey taste there, absolutely delightful. Now, where I live, that's not going to happen. I don't live anywhere near a big city, and what we do have, anything Asian, certainly not going to be greens where I live, unfortunately for me. Now look, what I do have is I've got some fresh mint that I've picked, and I do grow some cilantro. 2 of my absolute favorites also. But look, you can use almost any kind of green vegetable that you want. There's no set rule to what you can use. The Vietnamese in particular, I think they have lots of tons because they actually use this as a condiment, like us Americans would probably be using ketchup and mayonnaise and mustard. You can probably construct this any way you like. This is how I do it. I first put in a lot of noodles. I love the noodles. I put in a little bit of this meat. I put in a lot of bean sprouts, and when I've got the time, and I learned this in the Vietnamese class, I take off that little root. I know it seems like a lot of work, but it does look nicer. And in our class, they did that to each and every mung bean. Amazing. Okay, so let's keep building. The raw meat, even though it's raw, the broth is so hot, it's going to cook that meat and within a minute. And notice they're nice and kind of long strands, so you can pick them up with your chopsticks. Broth. see, it's not too bad, but that could be clearer. Your greens over the top. I love mint, so I'm going to put a lot of mint on there. And some nice fresh coriander. Now that's usually served with chili sauce, and a lot of people use will use sriracha as a little side condiment there, but I like using red hot chilies, and my favorite are the bird's eyes. They got a punch and a pack, so I got to cut them up a little bit. I can't just eat one raw. And I use those also because I grow them by the thousands. They just kind of show up everywhere in my garden. So I put a little bit of sprinkled chili on that, and it gives a nice little whack, which I really like. Every place I went in Vietnam, if they didn't have chilies on there, I'd ask for them, and they'd bring them to you. There you have it, my version of pho bo. Being a Westerner, I first started calling it pho bo, like you would from looking at it. You're corrected in Vietnam to say pho, or pho actually, pho bo. So there it is, pho bo. Super healthy, super delicious, super tasty. Okay, so you know the spiel. I'm Rick Michelle. This is You Can Cook. Our next recreation is one of the spring rolls, the Vietnamese spring rolls with the prawns in it. So that's next week. Hopefully get out next week. So make sure you subscribe. You won't miss that. So I'm going to go eat my pho bo, and we'll see you next time.